Last but not least, I wanted to talk about grief, and this is more for the person who's lost someone and how that's affecting the brain. So, there's been some interesting neuropsychological and neuroscience research that has examined how grief and extended grief affect the brain. And so, this is just a summary of some of the findings, but there's more research out there and there's more research yet to be done. So, one of the interesting findings is that grief, so going through the process of grieving for someone, has been associated with a reduction in executive functioning. So, just recall that executive functioning includes these active processes for of cognition. So, things like attention, memory, and processing speed, things that we've talked about, and verbal fluency, so our ability to just put things into words and to speak. So going through the grieving process is affecting us cognitively. It's almost like we're taxed, right? We're not able to work as efficiently in just thinking. How long does this last for? There's a lot of individual differences, right? So everybody's grieving process is different and there's not one right normal. So like this is harder to measure. We do know that more persistent griefs, this is going on for a longer period of time, which still can be in the normal range of normal behaviors, not necessarily to the point where a psychologist needs to be seen. Although at seeing a psychologist at any point could be, really beneficial during the grieving process. But with more persistent grief, there's been a finding that, again, these cognitive deficits or struggles are still apparent. And then also, like looking at overall brain volume. So, again, looking at gray matter, the lower total brain volume and white matter too. So that's an interesting finding about how it can have these long-term effects. The last thing I wanted to talk about is that we know that grief isn't just this emotional experience. And we know that from our own experiences, but we also know this from neuroscience. So grief can actually be experienced as like physical pain. And the same areas of the brain that are, lighting up in, let's say, an fMRI, when someone is experiencing physical pain or social pain, are also lighting up when somebody is grieving. And so, as you see in this little picture here on the right, that the areas of the brain that are particularly affected, there's multiple here, ones that I'm not even going to talk about, but the insula, which is represented there as INS, and the anterior cingulate, which is represented here as the DACC, which is the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. Those two areas we know for sure are really activated in response to pain. And these same areas, as you see in this little picture on the right here, it says bereavement. So areas of the brain that are associated with these negative experiences that are broader than just these emotional experiences, they're physical too, are lighting up when we're seeing somebody who's going through the grief process. And even though we just ended on a not so great note talking about death and dying and grieving, I just wanted to say that we did it. That's it. That's all of the new material. You've learned a lot about human development. Here it says developmental psychology because when I typed in human development, it didn't give me a cool word cloud. Starting from infancy or starting from prenatal all the way to death and dying. And so you did it, and I'm proud of you. I know this has been a crazy, uncertain time and less than ideal situation. And obviously, going online can be a challenge for us. It's not my favorite to record lectures. I much rather see your faces and tell stories in class. But we did it. And again, I'm proud of you for sticking it through. Just a couple of things that I want you to be thinking about. The idea forms of evaluation of me are up, and you can access that just through the main Augie page. So that way you can give me some feedback. Obviously, I know that these are different times, but I'm interested to hear what you have had to say about this process. And other than that, I know that this summer is going to be less than ideal too in a lot of ways because of COVID, but I want you to have a great summer. Take some time for yourself. Just recover from this rush of classes and all of the activities that you're doing related to your coursework. So it's been a pleasure to have you all in class. I wish it was in person and under different circumstances, but I hope you learned a lot about developmental psychology, and I want you to know that I'm always around if you have any questions or want to know more about this field, but also psychology broadly, or if you just want to chat about life.